And let's chat this morning to Dale McKinley. He's from the Right2Know Campaign. Dale, good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for your time. We've been chatting about this for months, haven't we? Now, you're happy with this. Is this okay? It's normal, not classified as hardcore pornography, but the 16 age restriction remains?
The 16 age restriction remains, and that's, I think, fine with everybody because there is some adult content there. Our rating agencies are meant to classify according to that. But the hardcore pornography classification was completely against, it was unconstitutional, and the judge found that. And I think that's the real import of this, is that the freedom of artistic creativity is not trumped by cultural insensitivity. So the charge from Contra Lesa and the man Boyfanda who basically made the complaint was that it's culturally insensitive, that they're making fun of a sacred right. And basically, that's not a basis for censorship.
Yeah.
So it was very welcome because this is a boost to freedom of expression.
So what were the learning curves here? What have we learned from this entire saga when it comes to this? Because we live in such a culturally diverse country. We have so many. I mean, we are called a melting pot. And we are going to see much more of this coming up, where we see a certain tradition, a certain ritual used as a basis for a movie, but not what the movie is about. So we're going to have to tread more carefully, you think, after this?
Well, I think there's always going to be sensitivities. We're going to have these debates. But I think what's important is, as we've seen in other sectors of our society, is that when these things come to the fore, is that we look at what our constitutional right says. And in this case, what does freedom of expression really mean? I think that's the real debate here. And in this case, yes, people might be angry. Yes, they might think it's distasteful. But in a modern democracy with constitutional rights like this, that's not a basis to censor something. So I think what we're going to have to understand, or what people have to understand, is that we can have these debates, but you can't tell somebody, just because you make me angry or because I think you're disrespecting me, that I'm going to ban whatever you can say or whatever you can write or whatever you can draw. As for example, a cartoon. We've had these kinds of cases with Sapiro and others. So this is an ongoing debate that we're going to have, but it's very important, I think, that people understand that this is not about trying to be disrespectful. It's about actually respecting our Constitution.
I'd like your thoughts on what the judge had to say, although he found, I mean, he's overturned this and brought it back to 16s, and also saying the film's producers were not given a proper chance to participate in that tribunal decision. He also says if cultural beliefs and practices were to be considered, the film was indeed harmful and disturbing and exposed 16-year-olds to the sexual conduct depicted in the film. Also included language degrading to Xhosa women and exposed women to societal violence such as rape. So just your take on that. I mean, it seems
well, I
like
think if we were to adopt those kinds of standards to most films these days, they would all be rated pornography. I mean, look at some of the stuff that comes out of Hollywood. Look at all, I mean, the sex scenes, the strong language. So there's a lot to offend people in a lot of artistic, and particularly films. So again, yes, that's fine, but is that a basis for censoring it and basically making it for something that can only be shown in adult stores? Half of the films that were made would be that. So I think that the judge recognized that there's issues here. He didn't want to make it appear as though there's not a debate to be had, but the law is very clear. And we base ourselves on our law. We don't base ourselves on opinion. And that, I think, is the fundamental point here.
And obviously a lot of education needed around this, especially if we are to showcase just what South Africa or Africa is all about, and how cultures relate to one another. Who should be responsible for that education? The likes of you, Right2Know?
Well, we are a civil society organization. We can only do so much. We have statutory institutions. We have, we have the language board. We have other kinds of outfits, education department. We need to be talking about these things. We need to raise them. So, for example, I think what upset a lot of people, and particularly the traditionalists here, was the homosexuality in the film, and that is against their moral code or religious code. That's fine. We can have that debate, but our Constitution guarantees non-discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. So we must defend that very, very, energetically, at the same time as to have a debate and not shut down what are concerns that people might have.
All right, thanks very much for that insight and for your time. That's Dale McKinley from the Right2Know Campaign.